Wait, 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 wait. Look at that. It's magic. Both ways, too. Okay, time to make the boat steer. The two engines are 5 feet 2 apart. I needed to connect them together, so I'm just thinking tie rod, kind of like a car tie rod. But every tie rod end I found for a car had a tapered shaft, and I didn't have a tapered hole. I just had a round hole in the front of the engines. So I bought a pair of these on eBay for like nothing, like 10 bucks for the pair. And it got here, and I didn't know what the thread was, but it said it was for a four-wheeler, so I was assuming it was metric. And from the best I could figure, it was M12 by 1.25, a fine thread. So I ordered a bolt. This is plated, not stainless, and I was correct. It fits. So then I ordered a stainless one, which was a little more money, but not a whole lot more. And it fits, but it didn't fit the other one, which I don't have here right now. The other one is apparently left-handed thread, which is probably what the L stood for. So I ordered a left-handed threaded rod, just like this, and some left-handed nuts. And this is all coming straight from China, because I can't find an American supplier. But it came a right-hand one. So got on eBay and fussed, and I had to send pictures and all kind of mess. So she sent me another one, also right-handed. So now I have 3 right-handed threaded rods and nothing for the left-handed end. And by this time, 4 weeks had passed. I'm getting kind of frustrated. So I went and ordered this from China. This is a whole assembly, so I knew that I could just cut it in half and stretch it out. In the meantime, this is not stainless though. I still have the stainless left-handed thread ordered. It hadn't come in yet. And as a backup, I ordered a left-handed die so I could cut my own threads on a stainless. So I had 3 different items ordered, and I said, well, whatever comes first, that's what I'm going to use. So this one came. That's what I'm going to use. I can use the stainless. It's the same thread size, so I can use the stainless rod and stainless nuts on this end. On this end, I'm going to have to use this threaded part, but I can use stainless nuts. The nuts will be welded into this stainless pipe, which is like way overkill. But in the future, if I ever do find a threaded stainless left-hand fine thread M12 by 1.25, I'll be able to just swap it out, because it won't be welded. It will just be threaded into well, how will it go? Okay, it'll thread into the nut. The nut will be welded, so I'll be able to change it at any time in the future. So today I'm going to start, and what I'm going to have to do is cut this down because it's too big for the nuts. So I'm going to try to cut some pretty slots and bend it in and weld it to a nut, and then on the other end weld it to a left-hand nut, get it the right length, bring it to the boat, drop it into the outboards, and then decide what I need for a bracket for the hydraulic cylinder to push them back and forth. So I cut 4 notches on the end of the pipe. I'm going to go put it and hammer it and see if that's enough to bring the circumference down enough. That was surprisingly easy. I made a nice taper, just a couple of taps, and actually it came down too small, so I'm gonna grind this nut a little bit, grind it round and slide it in there, and see if I can't make a decent weld. So I got the first end done. Probably the best welding I've ever done in my life. This is the jam nut. The welded nut is up in there. You can't see it very well. But this worked really good. The other end's a little more tricky because I only have the one left-handed threaded rod, and if I boogered up, I'm in trouble. But give it a shot. Okay, second end's welded. The nut you see is the jam nut. The nut that's welded is up in there. I'll have to cut that one off. So far, real happy with this. This is going to be the bracket for holding the fixed end of the hydraulic cylinder that does the steering. And I have dimensions that I thought I wanted in my phone, but I think I might make it like overly big. Go put it on the boat and make sure. So the bar's in place and it's okay. I was hoping to put it from the bottom of these brackets, but then it hits the gray part of the motor when it's turned all the way to the right. But other than that, everything's good. This is the cylinder I have to steer with. So now I'm going to turn the batteries on and tilt the motors one at a time, fully tilt, make sure nothing gets in a bind. But making progress. So I was happy with the anchor point, the location and everything, so I went ahead and drilled 4 1/4-inch holes and bolted it tight with caulk. I hope I don't have to take it off. You can get to the inside of the bottom nuts and washers if you lay down and stick your arm in there, so that's cool. One problem I'm having is this thing, for it to push, it wants to torque. It wants to, instead of pushing, it wants to roll sideways. And I don't really know how to do that. I know that if I put the bolt hole up here, it can minimize that. Oops, excuse me. I know if I move the hole up, it'll minimize that because it'll have less of a moment. What I'm thinking about doing is taking this nut here and welding it right here, drilling a hole, and then screwing this little stud can turn, screw into it, and then it really can't have any of this twisting mess here. So yeah, I didn't have this welded on, I just had it tacked. I wasn't sure about it, but I think what I'm going to do, I'm pretty sure I'm going to go ahead and drill a hole here and weld a nut on top of it and put this bracket right here, and then I don't think it can torque anymore. I think it's a done deal. So now I need to drill another hole in the back of my boat, which I don't like to do, and measure the 2 hydraulic hoses that come out the cylinder. They go into the mechanical room. The houseboat came with a functioning steering system. I mean, it steered and it didn't leak oil anywhere, so I'm assuming it's functioning properly. The kids took it apart without taking pictures, so it took me a while to scratch my head and figure out how these things go back together, and I had them at the wrong elevation once and had to redo them. But we found a good website, and apparently this is a upscale installation, so I put it back and we're using the original parts on this thing. So this is the part of the steering that's inside the boat. Both this and its control valve were original to the houseboat. And then I just had to get some hydraulic hoses to run out the back to the cylinders. Pretty straightforward. This thing, I don't quite understand it. Fill it with fluid and put pressure on it with this little Schrader valve, and it helps you to bleed the system. You can do it all by yourself. Just spin the wheel back and forth and it builds up pressure. I had a 50-50 chance of getting these hoses correct, and of course I got them wrong. So I bled the pressure off with the Schrader valve until there was no pressure in this little tank, and then I went to undo the hoses and made a huge mess because they had a lot of pressure on them. So I don't quite understand how the system works, but it works, and it's pretty much finished there. We put it in the water and hook up the hydraulic lines to the upper helm, and then we will have to go through the proper bleeding process. I know it's got tons of air still in the lines. So this one is almost a wrap. I've got a lot of junk up here right now, but I wanted to show what I did to solve the problem. I just moved the plate to the side, and what that does, it puts the push point center lined with the tie rod. So it still turns a little bit, but it's not as drastic as it was. So all I need to do now is take it back off, run to the shop, fully weld it, put it back and tighten everything up, and we're going to call the steering complete.